perhaps a suggestion that Africa is beginning to grow up and realize its full potential, because your findings are suggesting that Nigerians are not worried at all about ethnicity. They are worried more about what a leader brings.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Yes, based on our poll results, we found that issues such as competence and education, but mainly competence, is what Nigerians are looking for in terms of their leaders. I think Nigerians are hungry for good governance, and they're looking for leaders that are going to deliver for the people. We've done polls in the past on different issues such as zoning, where we found that the majority of Nigerians are against zoning. That seems to be an issue that is that the political class is concerned with, but the general population of Nigerians are looking for different criteria, and competence is one of them.
Excuse me for being skeptical here. I, after all, come from a country, Zimbabwe, let me put it on record, where we do know that sure. Ethnicity plays a large part in deciding politics, and we've also seen evidence of that coming through from Kenya in East Africa. We've sure. also seen in part some of it coming out here in South Africa, though to a lesser extent. Are Nigerians sure. that well different from other Africans that we've seen as reflected in election results?
Yes. Yes, you've made a very good point. Yes, ethnicity is an issue. There's no doubt about that. But what we're trying to say is that there are other criteria that Nigerians are concerned with. You know, we're a very large country. Nigeria has a very large market. You know, we have a decentralized government with 36 states. 774 local governments and a federal capital territory. Yet we've not had any independent polling capability. So we find ourselves in a situation where the voices of a few people are often taken as what the general population thinks. So while we may say that yes, ethnicity plays a role, there are other factors that Nigerians are concerned about.
Let's talk about, and I'm not in any way doubting your findings here, but I just wanted to get a sense of sure. The size of your sample and also just how representative it was.
Yes, basically we used a representative sample of Nigerians aged 18 and above, and this was drawn from the different geopolitical zones. And we use what they call a probability sampling approach, which ensures that everyone has an equal opportunity to be a respondent. We've also taken into consideration the issue of urban-rural split. So certainly the sample was representative.
Were you surprised by the findings?
No, I was not surprised by the findings because, again, like I mentioned before, we've had a situation in the past, and we still do to a certain extent, where the voices of just a few people are taken as what the general population thinks. So I think these results show that the thinking is changing. Nigerians are clamoring for change. We're looking for new leaders who will deliver based on their promises. And it's not just about where the person is from or other issues of that nature, but more so about what that person will achieve in leadership positions. I think we're moving to a situation where issues such as transparency and accountability are very important to Nigerians. Lumkile,
I should be jumping up and down because these findings should be good news for any African who has the interests of Africa at heart. I mean, let's just go quickly through some of the findings. 38% of Nigerians are going to say they consider competence in selecting a president, while 20% consider level of education, and then ethnic origin is just 2%, profession 4%, religion 7%. Am I wrong to be skeptical?
Not really. I think Nigerians are showing a way that, you know, for presidency, it's a very responsible position, and therefore it's critical for us to appoint those that are competent, that can perform the job, that can build relations, that can improve trade and economic relations with the rest of the world. And more importantly, what was surprising for me was that although competence came out very, very high, I was quite disappointed that only 22% of those that were polled that believed that education was important. So I'm not so sure whether people, whether in presidential or in international politics and diplomacy, whether education being put at the backbone, whether a person who's competent, who's not educated, will also will he or she be able to deal with the matters of international relations?
Well, Lumkile, I'm sure President Zuma would not agree with you, because he is competent if we are looking at how the country is running, but we know that for formal education, he's not very strong on formal education. But let's go back to those findings in Nigeria. Now, if your findings are accurate, the PDP should be listening very carefully, because we do know about that requirement about the North-South divide and how perhaps Jonathan should not be running because he's from the South and the presidents were supposed to go back to the North.
Yes, the issue of, sorry, is that question for me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, the issue of the North-South divide, no doubt, it's still an issue. But what we're trying to say is that Nigerians are looking at other criteria. I mean, for instance, I gave you the results of the zoning issue. But, I mean, there's no proof to say that people from particular zones give special preference to their own people or develop the areas where they come from. There's no proof in that. And so there's a different thinking now, and it's not just about where you're from, but again, there are other issues involved, such as competence and other areas, such as education, that Nigerians are looking at.
How different were the results that you found this time around compared to other results that you've done, to other surveys that you've done before?
Okay, this is the first time that we've done a poll of this nature, and I've not seen any other polls that were done on this topic in the past. But certainly we're going to try to capture the trend over time going forward. But again, this shows the general trend for now, and I must say that you know, poll results are subject to change, and this was captured during a particular time. And so we'll see how that changes over time. But I think that we're moving generally in this direction.
These numbers are quite decisive. I mean, the don't knows are 7%, religion stood in at about 7%. What was the margin of error for this survey? Yes,
with the sample that we're using, we can say with 95% confidence that the margin of error is about plus or minus 3%.
The other surprise for me in terms of the findings that you came back with is religion at 7%. I mean, we do know that Nigeria is roughly split between Muslims and Christians. Again, was that a surprise for you?
Is that for me?
Yes. Ndubuisi.
Okay. Yes, in terms of the results, for me, I think that it was a bit of a surprise, but I would say that it's representative of what Nigerians are thinking. Again, we don't have any parameters to go by. We've not had any trends to go by on these types of issues in the past. But it seems to be the general consensus at this time.
Lumkile, we speak here as outsiders watching in, and we do know about the very strong differences between your Christian and your Muslim communities around the world because of issues around the war and terror and all those other issues. Do these findings surprise you greatly?
Not really. I think people will respect leadership.
But you have faith in Africa, right?
I've got faith in Africa. I'm an African. So people want competency. It's very clear. The 8% want competency. So whether your ethnicity or religion is Muslim or Christian or Buddhism, I think the Nigerians are showing very clearly that people believe in competency. In fact, what I was going to ask Ndubuisi is whether the governors from various states are now being put in a very better position because they probably have got a better experience having led in their provinces, and therefore with the people believing that competence is critical, they can now contest the presidential election much better given the track record that they present from their leadership in the past.
Ndubuisi, did you hear that question from Lumkile, our guest host tonight?
No, can you repeat that, please?
I wanted to find out how the poll in terms of the 80% demanding competency as a strong signal for them to vote for a candidate, how much does that give the governors of various states in Nigeria a pole position, given the fact that competency seemingly going forward is going to be quite a very big criteria for Nigerians to vote a candidate for presidency?
So sorry, it's not coming in clear. Maybe you can repeat his question so I can hear more clearly.
Essentially, he's asking if these results suggest that governors now going forward are going to be largely selected on the basis of competency rather than allegiance to a particular party line.
Sure. Certainly, I think the governors will follow suit. Again, Nigerians are setting new standards for their leaders, and it's I think the modus operandi now is that be transparent. Nigerians have we don't tolerate corruption anymore. We're looking for a new generation of leaders, and so basically the poll results are suggesting supporting these facts.